January 12, 2024, the basketball world held its breath as a breaking headline threatened to derail the life of one of its most electrifying young stars. Mikey Williams, the social media sensation who had captured millions with viral highlights and a larger-than-life presence, was suddenly facing a reality that would force even his strongest defenders to question what justice really means. What unfolded next exposed a form of punishment so psychologically crushing that many observers now argue it is far more merciless than any death sentence could ever be. The courtroom overflowed with reporters, family members, and spectators who had watched Williams' meteoric rise from teenage prodigy to global internet phenomenon. Yet the young man standing before the judge looked nothing like the confident athlete who once dominated highlight reels and commanded multimillion-dollar endorsements. The weight of his choices had finally arrived, and the consequences would dismantle everything he believed was guaranteed. Most people think they already understand what happened to Mikey Williams. They believe they know the story of his fall from grace. But what I am about to reveal will completely reshape how you view his downfall. While the world moved on and erased his name from trending lists, Williams entered a private nightmare that continues to unfold day after day. By the end of this video, you will understand why his current existence may be more unbearable than any prison cell could ever be. Stay with me, because what you are about to discover will challenge everything you think you know about punishment and consequence. His story is a warning about how one moment can erase an entire future forever. To fully understand the scale of Mikey Williams' downfall, you first have to understand what he had before everything collapsed. This was not just a promising teenager with basketball dreams. This was a global phenomenon built before adulthood. By the age of 15, Williams had already built an audience of millions across multiple platforms. His highlight clips flooded timelines daily. Fans treated him like a celebrity rather than a student athlete. Brands competed for his name. Colleges chased his commitment publicly. The NBA was not speculation. It was treated as destiny. Williams secured a multi-year endorsement agreement with Puma that insiders believed could set him up for life before he ever stepped on a professional court. He lived in a luxury home in Southern California with high-end cars, designer clothing, and an entourage attracted to his rising fame. Every social media post generated massive engagement. Fans tracked his lifestyle, his training, his friendships, and his future projections. He was living inside the future most athletes only imagine. More important than the money or attention was certainty. Williams believed his path was guaranteed. He believed his talent and charisma would carry him to global superstardom. Coaches, analysts, fans, and companies all reinforced that belief. He woke up every day convinced the world was opening for him. Then everything changed in a single night. On March 27, 2023, inside his home near San Diego, a gathering among friends turned into an argument. What started as words escalated into chaos. Security footage and witness accounts confirmed what followed. Williams made a decision that would permanently redefine his life. He fired shots toward a vehicle leaving the property. Bullets struck the car. People inside feared for their lives. The neighborhood was shaken. No one was killed, but the damage was irreversible. In that moment, Williams stopped being a prodigy and became a criminal headline. The aftermath was immediate and unforgiving. News spread across the same platforms that had built his fame. Fans who once praised him now debated his guilt. Brands quietly removed his name. Colleges stopped communication. The basketball world went silent. The legal system then moved in with force. Prosecutors filed multiple charges, including assault with a deadly weapon, firing into an occupied vehicle, and criminal threats. Each charge carried serious consequences. Combined, they represented the possibility of decades behind bars. Commentators and analysts expressed disbelief at how quickly a golden prospect had fallen. As the case developed, it became clear that this was more than a legal issue. Williams was losing his identity. His entire self-image was built around basketball success, public recognition, and guaranteed stardom. Those pillars collapsed simultaneously. Reports surfaced that he struggled with basic routines. He had trouble sleeping, eating, and functioning normally. The teenager who once thrived under constant attention now struggled in isolation. His confidence vanished. His future became uncertain. Then came the waiting. Instead of immediate sentencing, Williams entered a prolonged legal limbo. Court dates were delayed. Negotiations continued. Media speculation never stopped. Every day he woke up not knowing if he would be imprisoned, banned from basketball, or permanently ruined in public opinion. Experts describe this state as psychological limbo. Williams existed between freedom and confinement, between innocence and conviction. His social accounts went quiet. Followers left. Sponsorships vanished. Scholarship opportunities disappeared. Teammates distanced themselves. Coaches avoided comment. Friends stopped responding. He became isolated in the same community that once celebrated him. Every morning he woke up in a normal bedroom instead of training for professional basketball. Every afternoon he met with lawyers instead of practicing. Every evening he watched his dreams collapse while other players advanced toward the future he lost. Financial pressure mounted quickly. Legal costs increased. Sponsorship money disappeared. Without active basketball income, his lifestyle collapsed as fast as his reputation. Isolation became the most brutal punishment. Fame had surrounded him with people. Controversy erased them all. He became invisible where he was once adored. Psychologists note that sudden loss of identity can be devastating, especially for young public figures. Williams experienced this shock during formative years. His personality and self-worth were tied to public recognition, and that recognition vanished overnight. The media never allowed escape. Articles replayed his highlights alongside details of his charges. Commentators debated his character and future. Social media users argued about punishment and redemption, using his name for engagement. Williams could not publicly defend himself without legal risk. Silence fueled speculation. Any statement could be used in court. He withdrew from public interaction. And while he withdrew, the basketball world moved forward without him. New stars replaced his name in rankings. Recruiters shifted attention. Fans found new highlights to share. The sport continued as if he had never existed. Each passing week reinforced how quickly success can be erased and how unforgiving public memory can be when controversy replaces achievement. Williams was forced to watch from the outside as the system that once elevated him quietly erased him. He became a cautionary tale whispered among coaches and parents about talent and temptation. His story circulated as a warning rather than inspiration. Every update reminded him that the narrative was no longer controlled by him, but by headlines that would follow him indefinitely. Each day felt like a public trial without a verdict and without mercy. There was no pause button and no escape from the constant reminder of what was lost. Forever. As the months passed, the psychological consequences deepened. Williams was not just losing a career. He was losing his sense of self. The confident teenager who once walked into gyms with authority began to withdraw. The personality that dominated viral clips faded into anxiety and isolation. Family and friends described a drastic shift in his behavior and emotional state. Mental health professionals explained that sudden identity collapse can have lasting consequences. Williams did not slowly transition out of fame. He was removed instantly. One day he was a global prodigy. The next he was a defendant. That shock left little time for adaptation. Media coverage intensified the pressure. Every legal update generated headlines. News outlets replayed his highlights beside reports of his charges. Analysts speculated about his mental health, his family, and his future. Social platforms turned his downfall into content. Strangers debated his guilt and punishment in public comment sections. Williams watched his own story unfold through headlines written by people who never knew him. His legal team advised silence. Public statements could be used against him. That forced silence isolated him further. The platforms that built his fame became places he could not safely use. The athlete who thrived on attention was pushed into exile. Basketball continued without him. Rankings replaced his name. New prospects filled recruiting boards. Draft projections excluded him. Each highlight from other players reminded him of what his life could have been. As time dragged on without resolution, a deeper crisis emerged. Williams faced a future without the structure that defined him. Training schedules vanished. Endorsement obligations disappeared. The dream that motivated his discipline collapsed. He confronted a void where certainty once existed. Family members described episodes of depression and anxiety. Routine tasks became difficult. Social interactions became strained. The young man who once thrived in crowds began avoiding them. His personality shifted under sustained pressure. Psychologists describe this process as psychological erosion. Continuous loss of identity reduces ambition, suppresses emotion, and shrinks social engagement. Williams was not simply losing fame. He was undergoing a forced transformation of who he was. Then the legal outcome arrived and shocked many observers. He avoided long-term incarceration. He avoided the traditional punishment many expected. Instead, he received a resolution that left him physically free but permanently marked. To some it looked like leniency. To others it looked like a different kind of sentence. This is where the punishment became permanent. Williams was released into a world where his reputation was destroyed and his opportunities were erased. He carried a label that would follow him indefinitely. He had to live knowing that he stood at the edge of greatness and destroyed it in seconds. Every day he wakes up aware that he once had a path to basketball history. Every day he watches peers succeed in leagues and sign contracts that once seemed destined for him. Every day he confronts a reality shaped by one irreversible moment. His online presence never recovered. His brand value vanished. His pathway to generational wealth disappeared. Companies avoided association. Opportunities evaporated. The system moved on. This is the modern form of punishment. Not prison walls or execution, but perpetual awareness of lost destiny. Williams will age knowing he was supposed to be one of the biggest names in basketball. He will watch others achieve the milestones he once anticipated. Many argue prison allows adaptation and routine. Living with regret without escape can be more brutal. Williams did not lose his life. He lost his legacy, his identity, and his future. This is a sentence without an end date. He will continue existing in the shadow of what could have been while the world moves forward without him. He must navigate public spaces knowing that strangers recognize his name for the wrong reasons. Interviews, job opportunities, and partnerships are filtered through the lens of his past. Each introduction carries the weight of public memory. Redemption narratives exist, but they move slowly and often never fully erase the first headline. Young athletes study his story as a warning. Coaches reference his case when discussing discipline and responsibility. Parents use his name when explaining consequences to their children. His identity has been reshaped into a lesson rather than a legacy. He cannot outrun the digital record. Search engines archive his mistakes permanently. Social media preserves reactions and commentary. Years from now, people will still discover his past within seconds. That permanence is part of the punishment. Every milestone he reaches will be compared to what he lost. Every achievement will be measured against the potential that vanished. Every failure will reinforce the narrative that he threw everything away. Time will pass, but memory will not. Fans will debate whether he deserves sympathy or condemnation. Commentators will revisit his story during discussions about young athletes and fame. His name will resurface whenever the topic of squandered talent appears. He is forced to live in a world that never fully forgets. This ongoing exposure ensures there is no clean break and no private recovery. His mistakes exist in public memory and digital archives. Even if he rebuilds parts of his life, the shadow of that moment will remain attached to his name indefinitely. That is the consequence of modern fame and modern scandal, where nothing fades and everything follows. It ensures his punishment continues long after the courtroom has moved on. For rest of his life. So here we are years later, and Mikey Williams still lives inside a reality that bends our idea of justice and punishment. He escaped prison walls, but what replaced them may be harsher. It became a lifelong sentence of watching his future collapse while the world keeps moving without him. Every day he wakes up aware that he held everything in reach and lost it in a single reckless instant. The young star who once commanded millions of followers now struggles to stay relevant on platforms that already moved on. The athlete once destined for NBA stardom now exists in relative obscurity, his potential permanently stained by that night. The sponsorships, the endorsements, the path to generational wealth all disappeared because of seconds of poor judgment that will echo for decades. This is modern punishment. Not bars and concrete, but the slow mental erosion of knowing you destroyed your own destiny. Williams will spend years watching peers achieve milestones he was expected to surpass while he remains locked in the shadow of what could have been. Death would have ended the story. This makes him live inside it forever. Every headline, every search result, every whisper will reopen that chapter and remind him how fast fame fades and how long consequences last in the digital age where nothing is ever forgotten. He carries that weight into every room and every conversation and every future he tries to build, and it follow him rest of life.